He had always been the kind of person who questioned everything. Religion, to him, was a man-made system, divided by cultures, controlled by leaders, and followed blindly by the masses. He didn't consider himself an enemy of faith, but he saw all religions as the same: rituals, rules, and stories passed down through generations, each claiming to be the truth. Islam, in his eyes, was just another name in a long list, nothing more, nothing less. So when he casually said, "Islam is just another religion," he didn't expect anyone to challenge that thought. It was his default belief. Until one day, someone did respond, but not with argument, not with debate, not even with a raised voice. It happened in a quiet conversation. A Muslim man, soft-spoken and sincere, looked at him and simply said, "Do you really know what Islam teaches, or are you just assuming?" That question, so simple and free of judgment, took him by surprise. He paused, not because he was offended, but because no one had ever asked him that so directly. He realized he hadn't studied Islam deeply. He had read articles, seen news reports, watched social media debates, but never sat down with a Muslim, never read the Quran with a sincere heart, and never listened to Islam from someone who lived it. That moment opened a door, not to agreement, but to curiosity. He agreed to sit down and listen, not to convert, not to be convinced, but just to understand what made Islam different to the one sitting across from him. What followed wasn't a theological battle. It was a calm, honest dialogue. The Muslim man didn't try to sell religion like a product. He didn't use fear or pressure. He simply shared about one God, about the purpose of life, about how Islam connects the dots between all the messengers from Adam to Noah, from Abraham to Moses, from Jesus to Muhammad. Peace be upon them all. The man sat silently, listening, not to challenge, but because something in those words felt different. Then came a verse from the Quran, one that pierced through the noise in his mind. Indeed, this Quran guides to that which is most upright and gives good news to the believers. Surah Isra 17:9. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't shout, but it felt like it was speaking directly to his heart. It was clear, confident, and filled with a tone he couldn't explain. Firm, yet full of mercy. It didn't feel like something someone had written. It felt like something someone had delivered. He began to realize that Islam didn't ask him to shut off his mind. It asked him to use it. It didn't demand blind faith. It welcomed questions. And it didn't isolate itself from other religions. It embraced the truth in them, but corrected the changes over time. This wasn't just another belief system. It was claiming to be the final chapter of a divine message that had been sent through time. A message preserved, a message uncorrupted, a message still alive. He didn't expect tears, but they came. Not from emotion alone, but from realization. Islam wasn't demanding his loyalty. It was inviting his soul to remember where it came from. In that moment, the words, "just another religion," felt hollow, because Islam wasn't just a religion. It was a connection, a return, a mirror. It didn't try to dominate his heart. It reflected it. And in that reflection, he saw what he had been searching for all along. He came to dismiss, he stayed to listen. And somewhere in between, something shifted. Not because someone forced it, but because the truth, when spoken with sincerity, has a power that no argument can match. Keynote 1, the casual dismissal, didn't carry hatred toward religion, just indifference. In his mind, all religions were basically the same. a collection of stories, rituals, and emotional comfort for those who couldn't handle life's deeper questions. Islam, he believed, was no different. He had seen documentaries, read headlines, heard opinions, but never studied it himself. So when he confidently said Islam is just another religion, he thought he was being reasonable, even rational. To him, this statement was not an insult, just a conclusion based on everything he thought he knew. But what he didn't realize was that his entire understanding was built on assumption, not experience. It was during a casual conversation that he met a Muslim man, peaceful, thoughtful, and completely unlike the image he had in his mind. When the topic of religion came up, he repeated his usual line, "Islam is just another religion." But instead of being met with debate or frustration, he was met with calm curiosity. The Muslim asked gently, "Do you know what Islam actually teaches? Or are you judging it by what others say about it?" That question didn't accuse, it invited, and for the first time he realized he didn't have an answer. He had never read the Quran, he had never spoken to someone who truly practiced Islam. His opinion wasn't based on knowledge, it was based on distance. The Muslim man continued, not with preaching, but with clarity. Islam isn't just about rituals, it's about recognizing the truth of one creator. It's about living with purpose, knowing your origin and your destination. It's not a culture, it's a guidance from the Creator to all of mankind. These words weren't dramatic, they were gentle but strong. They didn't demand belief, they planted a question. What if I've been wrong about this? What struck him wasn't just what the Muslim said, it was how he said it. No arrogance, no pressure, just peace. Confidence that came not from trying to win, but from knowing what he stood on. That kind of conviction couldn't be faked. And that was the moment when his walls began to crack. Not because of what he lost in that conversation, but because of what he realized he had never truly explored. Islam might not be just another religion after all. After hearing his claim that Islam is just another religion, the Muslim man didn't rush to argue. He didn't throw scriptures or raise his voice. Instead, he leaned in with calm eyes and asked, "Can I share something with you? Not to convince you, but just so you know what Islam actually is." That respectful tone caught him off guard. He had expected defensiveness, maybe even anger, but what he received was kindness. The Muslim man spoke with a peaceful authority, the kind that doesn't come from memorizing facts, but from living truth. He began explaining that Islam is not just a religion among many, it's a continuation of the same message brought by prophets throughout time. We believe in Moses, he said. We believe in Jesus. We love them. But we also believe that their original message was changed over time. Islam came to restore it, to confirm the truth and clear the confusion. That was the first time he had heard someone speak of different religions as parts of one divine message rather than opposing belief systems. Then the Muslim said something that stayed with him. Islam doesn't start by telling you what to do. It begins by telling you who you are and who your creator is. It wasn't a list of rules. It was a call to identity, purpose, and direction. It wasn't demanding submission without understanding. It was offering clarity before commitment. This was unlike anything he had heard before. He always assumed religion was about obedience under fear. But here, Islam was being presented as a path grounded in meaning, balance, and peace, with God at the center. What moved him even more was the absence of pressure. The Muslim didn't say, "You must believe this." He simply said, "Think about it. Ask the one who made you to guide you, and you'll see." No sales pitch, no spiritual superiority, just sincere advice from someone who clearly believed with all his heart. And that sincerity struck a chord, because deep down, he wasn't looking for a religion that shouted. He was looking for a truth that whispered peace into his soul. That conversation didn't end in debate, it ended in silence. The kind that only comes when a person starts questioning everything they thought they knew. He left the conversation thinking deeply about what the Muslim man had said. For the first time, he was no longer dismissing Islam as just another religion. He was beginning to wonder if it was something far more profound. The calmness in the Muslim's voice, the simplicity of his words, and the confidence in his heart had left an impression that couldn't be erased. The words kept echoing in his mind. Ask the one who made you to guide you. He had never prayed seriously before, not truly, but that night, lying alone in his room, he whispered a simple prayer. If there is a truth, and if Islam is really from you, then guide me to it. He didn't even know why he said it, he just did. In the following days, he couldn't stop thinking about Islam. He started searching online, not from a place of criticism, but from curiosity. He watched videos, read translated verses from the Quran, and listened to people from different backgrounds share why they chose Islam. He wasn't looking for perfection, he was looking for truth. And what he found shocked him: the consistency of the message, the unity of the concept of God, the structure and preservation of the Quran. It all began to make sense in a way no other religion ever had. It wasn't built on emotional appeals. It was built on clarity, logic, and sincerity. Then he read a verse that shook him. Indeed, this Quran guides to that which is most just and upright. Quran 17:9. That line hit him hard. It didn't speak like human words. It spoke as if it knew his heart. He realized that the Quran wasn't a book of poetry or theory. It was a conversation, a challenge, a call. And for the first time in his life, he felt that the one who created him was speaking directly to him. No middleman, no confusion, just truth, pure and unfiltered. He wasn't emotional. He wasn't the type to cry. But that night, reading those verses in silence, he felt his chest tighten. Not from fear, but from realization. His heart wasn't empty anymore. It was awakening. He hadn't accepted Islam yet, but Islam had already begun to reach into the depths of his soul. And he knew something inside had changed forever. He returned to the same Muslim man a few days later, but this time he was quieter, less sure of himself. The arrogance he once carried had faded into something more honest, curiosity mixed with humility. I've been reading the Quran, he said, and it doesn't sound like any book I've read before. The Muslim smiled gently, not surprised. It's not written by man, he replied. It's revealed by the one who made man. That sentence hit him harder than he expected. It wasn't spoken with pride or superiority, just calm certainty, and it made him think. Not as an observer, but as someone genuinely searching for something real. The Muslim then opened a small, worn Quran from his bag and turned to a verse. This is the book about which there is no doubt, a guidance for those conscious of Allah. Quran 2:2. He read it aloud, slowly, letting the words settle in the space between them. That verse didn't feel like a claim. It felt like a statement. Confident, direct, unshaken. It was as if the Quran wasn't asking for trust. It was declaring its truth. Fearlessly, he had read so many books that tried to convince him, that pleaded for belief. But this was different. This book wasn't asking. He admitted something he hadn't told anyone before. When I read it, I feel like it's speaking to me. Not at me, not above me, but to me. The Muslim nodded. That's how it was revealed, to speak to the hearts of those who were sincere. He explained how millions of people across centuries, languages, and backgrounds had found themselves in those same words. that the Quran was preserved not just in memory, but in hearts, in souls, in lives. It's not just information, he said, it's transformation. As they spoke more, he began to understand that Islam wasn't just a set of rules or beliefs. It was a direct link between the Creator and the human being. No barriers, no clergy, no confusion, just a message, pure and preserved. A message that didn't change with time because it came from the one who exists beyond time. That thought alone made his heart tremble, not in fear, but in awe. Islam was beginning to feel less like a religion and more like the truth his soul had been waiting to hear all along. He always thought that religion belonged to those who needed hope or answers they couldn't find anywhere else. For him, truth had to be backed by logic, evidence, and clarity, not emotion or blind belief. So as he sat across from the Muslim man once again, he expected to be told to just have faith, but instead he was invited to think. The Muslim didn't dismiss logic. In fact, he welcomed it. Islam didn't ask you to switch off your brain, he said. It asks you to open your heart and mind together. That balance struck him. It wasn't faith versus reason. It was both, walking side by side. They talked about the Quran, how it openly challenges its readers to find contradictions, how it addresses people's doubts, how it speaks directly to the human being in every age. If it were from other than Allah, you would have found many contradictions in it, the Muslim quoted from the Quran, 482. That verse wasn't a defensive statement. It was a bold call, inviting anyone, even skeptics, to examine the book with honesty. He had never seen any scripture do that before. Most asked for blind trust. The Quran asked for reflection. The conversation shifted to the Prophet Muhammad. He wasn't a philosopher or a scholar, the Muslim explained. He couldn't read or write. Yet the Quran he brought transformed the world, morally, spiritually, intellectually. How do you explain that? That question lingered in his mind. For all the criticisms he had heard or repeated over the years, he had never considered how impossible it was for an unlettered man to produce a book so deep, so consistent, so revolutionary. It was more than strange, it was miraculous. He began to see that Islam wasn't built on fear or force, it was built on clarity. Everything he thought religion lacked, reason, logic, coherence, Islam offered. And more than that, it offered peace. Not temporary comfort, but deep, lasting peace. The kind that didn't come from winning arguments, but from finding answers. Slowly, the walls in his mind were falling, not because someone was breaking them down, but because the truth was shining through them. He hadn't accepted Islam yet, but something inside was changing. He no longer looked at it as just another religion. He was beginning to see it for what it really was. A message that speaks to both the heart and the mind without needing to shout. He was never the emotional type. He didn't cry during movies or get overwhelmed in conversations. But now, sitting in silence after hearing the Quran recited softly by the Muslim man, he felt something he couldn't explain. The verses weren't dramatic, yet they touched something deep within him. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Quran 13:28. That line echoed in his mind like a whisper from somewhere beyond. It wasn't a quote meant to impress. It was a truth that reached his soul when nothing else ever had. He sat quietly, no longer thinking of arguments or religious labels. All his life he believed strength meant independence, relying on nothing, needing no one. But at this moment, he realized that true strength might actually be surrendering to the truth when it appears, even if it humbles your ego. And Islam was doing exactly that, not by shouting or demanding, but by inviting him to remember who he truly was. A soul created for more than just survival, comfort, or soul made to know its creator. The Muslim man didn't say much more. He simply said, if you're feeling something right now, don't ignore it. That's not me. That's your fitra, your original nature. recognizing the truth. Those words didn't push him, they freed him. He wasn't being forced to believe, he was being allowed to be honest. For the first time in a very long time, honest about what his heart had always felt, even when his mind tried to silence it. He didn't become Muslim in that moment, but something inside shifted forever. His arrogance was replaced by awe. His doubt was replaced by a question. What if this is the truth I've been avoiding my whole life? That one question changed everything. Because once a heart has tasted even a drop of real truth, it can never go back to empty arguments. He walked away from that conversation in tears, not from fear, not from sadness, but from relief. For the first time, he wasn't running from the idea of God. He was walking toward him. And even though his lips didn't yet say the Shahada, his heart was already whispering it. Islam wasn't just another religion, it was the answer to a cry he didn't even know his soul had been making. In the end, what began as a simple statement, Islam is just another religion, turned into a journey that changed everything. It wasn't a debate that opened his heart, nor was it a miracle that forced belief. It was sincerity. It was truth spoken calmly, gently, and with conviction. It was a Muslim who didn't argue, but invited. It was verses that didn't shout, but echoed through the heart. And it was a realization that Islam is not just a religion. It is guidance, mercy, and truth preserved through time. A message that speaks to the mind with logic and to the soul with peace. He didn't expect to cry, but sometimes the most powerful moments are the ones that silence every doubt and replace every argument with a single tear of understanding. This is how truth works. It doesn't need to overpower, it only needs to be heard. Thank you for watching this journey of reflection and transformation. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You never know which moment, which word, or which verse might change a life forever. Stay curious, stay sincere, and may the truth always reach your heart when you're ready for it. Assalamu alaikum, and see you in the next video.